Hey friends, Allison here, welcome back. Today I am sharing with you a new traveler's notebook, how I created the traveler's notebook and the first spread in it as well. And I created this project for an online crop that is going on over at Scrapbook Nerd this weekend. It is summer themed and you are invited to play along if you're looking for something to do this weekend. I have a challenge as part of the crop as well. My challenge is to use at least 3 different patterns in your project. You can use more, but at least 3. So I'm beginning with this pattern paper. It is from, oh boy, we're off to a good start this morning. I had to Google what it was that I used. So it is The Avenue by Jen Hadfield. I really liked this floral paper and I've actually been hoarding it and decided that it would make a really pretty cover for my traveler's notebook. So I'm starting off by trimming the cover to 8.5 inches by 8.25. So it should be 8.5 inches wide by 8.25 long. And then the pages in between or inside the album are cut to the same size. I just use regular copy paper, like printer paper, to put inside my album. I am toying with using cardstock instead, but I hoard my cardstock. It is not cheap, and I don't want to waste it. So I use my printer paper. I have a ton of it. I have a box full that I don't think I'll ever go through, and this is a good way to use it up. So to fasten my album together, I just use a regular office stapler. You can use a long arm stapler if you have one. I don't. So I use the foam pad that I do my stitching with as a buffer and staple on top of that. That way I don't wreck my desk and it actually staples through what it is that I'm trying to staple. And there is my traveler's notebook. It's super simple to make. I put less pages in this traveler's notebook than I did in my first one. My first one had 5 pages and then folded in half. It made 10. I did only 4 pages this time, so in the end I have 8. And we'll see if that helps in the thickness department at the end of this album. I decided to add a label to the front of my album now. I'm going to add the date to it and possibly, most likely, embellishing at the end when I'm done this album. I know that I want to add the dates, but I don't know how far into the month of October I'm going to be scrapbooking and will fit in this album. So I'll add the dates later on. By the way, I am moving on to October of 2020 in my personal scrapbooking. So all of the layouts that go into this traveler's notebook will be from that month. At the end of the month, or when I'm done scrapbooking October, I'll do a walkthrough as well, just to show you what I all created and how many traveler's spreads I got into this album. So here I'm working on the first page. This is my second pattern paper. So the first one for my challenge was the pattern paper from Jen Hadfield. This is the second one. I decided to create my own ombre pattern paper. And so I took out my watercolor paints and I did a yellow ombre pattern on, in the end it ends up being 2 panels that goes on the inside cover of my album and the first page. I just need to denote right now or mention, I made this spread way more complicated than it needed to be in the very beginning. I didn't want to cover up the sun rays on this page besides the embellishing that I'm doing right now. And I decided that I was going to make a flip out. So you're going to see at the end of this clip right here that the page is going to flip out, and then there will be ample room for photos and journaling. I decided I could do it a simpler way. So honestly, I tore everything out of that first page, off the first page, and redid it. So it's going to look pretty yucky right now, that first page in the album, but it's going to be covered up by this second panel. Now this one I cut it with my Cricut, the sun rays. It cut a little too large because in the end, somehow my album ended up slightly smaller than it should be. So rather than 8.5 by 8.25, it's actually 8.5 by 8. I think my math was wrong when I put it together, but the dimensions should be 8.5 by 8.25. So I decided, instead of doing a flip out, I was still going to do a flip out, but I was going to actually use flip flaps that I had in my stash. So I took a 4x6 sleeve, threw a journaling card in it, which I added my typed journaling to, which is so fun. I'm so excited that I figured out how to do this. It will save paper in the long run, and I have a ton of journaling cards that could be used up, and this will be a fantastic way to use them, in my opinion. So the first panel is going to go on the inside cover of, or the inside of the cover of my album. So when you open it up, it's 2 pages right away, and then the journaling is in between. I decided to pull out some Paige Evans titles and also Cocoa Vanilla titles. The Cocoa Vanilla is from Daydream. And I used the word beautiful out of the titles pack, and then the word always from the Paige Evans pack as well. And that's pretty well my title. I think I do add a couple Tim Holtz phrase stickers to the photos. All the photos were printed at 2 by 2 inches and just layered in or glued in a row or column down the one page, and then the title is being adhered on its side next to it. Because the journaling card had lots of colors in it already, I was able to pull from different collections, different colored items to add as embellishments to my spread. So I used a sticker from Pink Fresh Studio. That collection is my favorite story. I put that on one of the journaling cards. I actually put it on the outside of the flip flap rather than pulling the journaling out and putting it directly on there. It worked just as well. And then here are the phrase stickers. I cut them into halves basically, and adhered them in 2 pieces to my photos. And that pretty much completes this spread. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I've inspired you to play along with us this weekend at Scrapbook Nerd. It is the summer online crop. There are going to be a number of different challenges that are going to be posted today. So if you are game for playing along, you have until next weekend, I believe, to get your projects posted to the Scrapbook Nerd Facebook group. I'll leave all the information down in the description box that you need to play along. Here are my close-ups. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Bye, friends.